Good morning. Please, can you sit and we start? Excellency Minister Nadia Fatah, Minister of Economy and Finance of the Kingdom of Morocco, Excellency Minister Ukur Yatani Kanacho, Minister of Finance of Kenya, Excellency Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are about to start our 2 days retreat on financing African Union beyond the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine conflict, enhancing resilience of African economies and the financial sustainability of the African Union. We have a two days retreat. We're discussing financing union, the role of F-15, and how the continent can recover after the pandemic while facing the consequences of the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. Our opening session, I would like to invite Her Excellency Minister of Finance and Economy of Morocco to give her opening remarks. Over to Your Excellency.
Excellencies, dear Ministers, Mrs. Vice Presidents of the African Union Commissions, honorable members of the F-15, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Morocco for this retreat of the F-15. And please now allow me to make my, welcome and introductory remarks in French. Je suis particulièrement ravie et honorée de prendre.
I'm very honored to open this interministerial meeting, the 19th ministerial meeting for the first time in Morocco, and I would like to welcome you in Morocco. Would like to wish you a very beautiful stay in Rabat, the administrative capital, but also the cultural capital of Morocco. I hope that you will have the possibility to visit Rabat and see the authenticity and modernity of the city, which is very gracious. Allow me also to give a testimony to Mr. Monique Nsonzabaga, President of the African Union Commission, for the work she accomplished with the services and the teams of the Commission in collaboration with the teams of the Ministry of Finance, Economics, and their counterpart, the teams of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in order to make this retreat a success. A great thanks to all the personalities and the excellencies who made it today to this opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very happy to have the Morocco as the venue of the meeting of this or the retreat of the Committee of 15 Ministers of Finance, and we're very proud of the engagement of our country before the African Union. This choice reflects the our partners' confidence in Morocco, a country that privileged the South-South cooperation, a strategic choice under the auspices of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, based on a global, holistic, balanced vision for the development of our country. In order to make the vision concrete, Morocco has considered the reinforcement of the bilateral cooperation relationships with the African countries during the two decades in order to develop win-win partnerships, thanks to the different visits of His Majesty King Mohammed VI to different African countries. Since 2000, the years 2000, we've concluded more than 1,000 cooperation agreements for the economic operator in our countries in order to launch investments and projects in different countries of Africa. The engagement of Morocco in the African continent has behind it a very strong legal framework for trade and through the protection of investment agreement, flexibility of exchange rate in order to reinforce the investment in Africa, and the dynamics of a bilateral commissions regarded with capacity building and expertise and knowledge sharing. Morocco is working towards the putting the geographical position of the country to the service of the African country as the economic and financial regional hub and a medium between Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. In addition to that, Casablanca plays an important role that contributes to channeling investments project in Africa, and helped by that the attraction of the country and the dynamics of the development of Morocco. The economic relationships between Morocco and African countries. Morocco is the first investor in West Africa and the second investor in the continent, the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, under the theme Beyond COVID-19 Pandemic and Russian-Ukrainian Conflict, Enhancing the Resilience of African Economics and Financial Sustainability of the African Union, this 15-minister committee retreats is organized in a very critical, difficult situation where the world is suffering from the impact of the pandemic and repercussions of the geopolitical situation. Since 2020 and the crisis of the pandemic COVID-19 has put our continent in a recession. Since decades now, many countries are facing crises that are threatening our development model, the efficiency of our social protection systems. The Ukrainian crisis came to exacerbate the situation and reducing the maneuver of our countries. These circumstances, or because of the circumstances, the African countries and their economics are facing inflation, and the outcome are very difficult for our continent. The cost of this situation would or might be, if we don't react all together, cause a regression that could affect the development we've reached during these past years, and this could have an effect on our economies, making them more vulnerable in an unstable environment. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to its impact on the African countries, the crisis today has lasted and could question our institution, that is to say the African Union, whether this would have an impact on the contribution of the institutions that finances and contributes to the African Union. Rethinking the economic and financial model of our African Union, of our institution, is important, and we have discussed in Johannesburg 2015 a sustainable, balanced, just finance for our continent. The 15 ministries of finance, or F15, has launched during the past years an important challenge in order to conduct a strategic reflection, in order to have a holistic vision for the path to follow, in order to have answers and solutions to the challenges of the financing of our country. The budget of the African Union should be a priority in order to operate a transition that we have developed based on the means and shifted into a strategic based on the result. The budget of the African Union today should push us to think and find new ways of resources and think about a just use of the already existing resources. I would like to seize this opportunity in order to implore the committee, the F15 committee, to develop a working group in order to reflect on the means to perform the African Union budget and improve the efficiency of its expenses. I am deeply convinced that this working group, a consortium or a restraint committee, would be important for the work, the performance and development of concrete recommendation in order to work with the African Union Commission to implement a new strategic based on performance. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African citizens call for a dynamic, strong African Union with tangible, concrete solutions to the different problems that the continent faces. The aspiration and the achievement of the aspiration is arbitrary and should have the engagement of all the parties within a reform of the institution that was launched by the Union Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda. This retreat is an opportunity for the F15 committee and its members to reiterate their engagement thanks to the decision of Kigali in order to have a budgetary and financial strategy based on the good governance and reducing accounts within the Union. We also seize this opportunity to create the effort of the African Union and the Commission of the African Union that helped develop the institutional reforms in its very important components, such as the development of a technological platform that would guarantee a better transparency in terms of recruiting personnel of the Union and the respect of the gold rules of 2022. Before concluding, I would like to reaffirm the fact that Morocco is attached and engaged to reinforce its relationships with the African Union countries based on solidarity that is a vocational for Morocco under the auspices and orientations of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. I would like to seize this opportunity to address you, Excellencies, Ministers, an invitation to participate to the meeting of Ministers of Finance caucus July 15 that will highlight the major problems of the African Union: food security, vulnerabilities, adaptation of climate change. It will be organized in Marrakesh, and I wish you success to the work of this meeting, and I wish you a nice stay in Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Minister Nadia Feta Alawi, Minister of Economy and Finance of the Kingdom of Morocco. Now, I give the floor to His Excellency, Minister of Finance of Kenya, to deliver his speech. Over to Your Excellency.
Honorable Ministers of Finance present and the distinguished representatives of the Ministries of Finance heading the respective delegations, Her Excellency Dr. Vera Songwe, Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the FTA Secretariat, Excellency Donald Kebaruka, the AU High Representative on Financing, the African Union and the Peace Fund, Excellency Vice Presidents of the African Development Bank, Excellency Ambassadors, Chairpersons of relevant ministerial and the PRC subcommittees and ministerial committees at ambassadorial level, esteemed experts of the F-15, Director General of the African Union Commission, Deputy Chiefs of Staff in the cabinets of the Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson, respectively, distinguished guests, Commission staff, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me at the outset to express the appreciation of the Kenyan delegation to the African Union and the Kingdom of Morocco for jointly organizing this very important meeting. We also thank the Kingdom of Morocco for hosting us, and we are particularly grateful for the warm hospitality accorded to us since we arrived here in this beautiful country. Equally, I'm delighted to be part of this retreat and have the honor to chair the meeting on behalf of Honorable Tahir Ngulin, Chairperson of the F-15, and the Minister of Finance and Budget of the Republic of Chad. This meeting has been convened with the main objective of reviewing the financial sustainability of the African Union and consider the viable options for financing and the Union in a sustainable manner. Certainly, this meeting provides a timely opportunity to reflect not only on the long-standing challenges facing our Union, but also engage on the more recent challenges emanating from the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. I'm therefore happy that the objective of this retreat resonates well with the new realities that our economies and the entire continent are faced with. Ladies and gentlemen, we take note that successive summits of heads of state and government have taken varied decisions towards enhancing financing sustainability of the African Union. Largely, the focus of this decision has been on the strategies to reduce dependence on external resources, enhance predictability of revenues from the member states, and institute reforms towards greater accountability and transparency in the management of the African Union resources. In this reform journey, this committee of 15 ministers of finance has been accorded a silent role of participating in the preparation, and oversight of the annual budget of the Union. This mandate provides us with the opportunity to contribute to the desire of the AU members to achieve a financially autonomous and self-reliant African Union. I am happy that the F-15 committee has made useful input in this regard. and in particular, instituting the ongoing budget reforms. However, a lot of work lies ahead of us to not only sustain the gains made so far, but also entrench the principles and culture necessary for efficient and effective budget making and implementation in the Union. We therefore appreciate the convening of this meeting to enable us progress this important work. I'm sure this is going to be a very timely meeting that's going to give us proper roadmap on how best we are going to achieve all that we've set for ourselves to make our organization, the AU, on sound footing and make it integral and pride of Africa itself by being autonomous in managing its own affairs. At this juncture, I now thank you and wish you all fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency Minister Okul, for rich and elaborate speech. Now I would like to invite Her Excellency, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver her speech. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, Honorable Minister Kuriatani, our chair of the proceedings of today, Honorable Minister Nadia Feta, our host, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers of Finance, and the distinguished representatives of the Ministries of Finance heading the respective delegations, Your Excellency Dr. Vera Songwe, Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Your Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Your Excellency Donald Kaberuka, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, the AU High Representative on Financing the African Union and the Peace Fund, Excellency Vice Presidents of the African Development Bank, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, Chairperson of the relevant ministerial and PRC subcommittees and ministerial committees at ambassadorial level, esteemed experts of the F-15, the Director General of the Commission of the African Union, Deputy Chiefs of Staff, distinguished guests, Commission staff, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you all here in person and virtually at this annual retreat of the F-15 held in Rabat, Morocco. And I wish to first and foremost express on behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, our profound gratitude to the government of the Kingdom of Morocco for graciously hosting this annual retreat of the F-15. Indeed, the warm hospitality extended to us, including this elegant venue, provides a very conducive environment to engage in pertinent discussions on financing the African Union, including discussions that speak directly to enhancing the capacity of African Union member states to fulfill their obligations to the Union in the face of multiple economic and social challenges, such as the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent Russia-Ukraine conflict. Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, the subject of building the resilience of African economies must not be understated. Recent events within a 2-year time frame have reminded us that Africa itself must take the necessary actions to build its own capacity and strengthen its resilience against external shocks that have laid bare arguably deeper vulnerabilities when compared to other continents. While we ponder on these realities, we are called upon to look inwards to our collective strengths as African nations, the resilience of our people, the steadfastness of our leadership, and the unwavering determination by us all to see the Africa continues to prevail in the face of disproportionate impacts from the various economic and social challenges of a hyper-globalized world. For us, in the development sphere, we are called upon to re-examine our common but differentiated responsibilities as we recommend innovative bounce-back strategies in the various sectors of our economies. And while on this subject, however, it will be remiss of me if I do not expressly acknowledge that our economies have specifically endured a severe ravaging that has disrupted our development agenda and more directly our livelihoods. While we are encouraged to learn from the Africa Development Bank's recently released 2022 African Economic Outlook that Africa's gross domestic product grew by an estimated 6.9% in 2021 on a steady recovery path following a pandemic-induced contraction of 1.6% in 2020, by the same report, we are also alerted that the ensuing Russia-Ukraine conflict is threatening to decelerate growth due to inflationary pressures, amongst other factors. I should therefore reiterate that the onus is upon us to intensify efforts to build economies that are more resilient to external shocks as concerns food insecurity, severe price distortions in the commodity markets, and disruptions in the supply chain of petroleum products and fertilizers, for instance. Your Excellencies, importantly also is the question of the financial sustainability of the African Union, which must be equally accorded its rightful attention in the various policy dialogue spaces. And here, suffice to emphasize that when we talk of the financing of the Union, we actually have in mind the continental projects, initiatives that are speaking to the integration, to the prosperity, to the peaceful Africa we all want. But also, this, of course, is hinged on the financial muscle or capabilities of all the machinery behind this, including the organs of the Union and also of the building blocks, which are the RECs. We at the Commission are not numb to the immense financial challenges faced by member states at the national level. But frankly, we are also hard-pressed to expedite the implementation of these AU programs, which directly speak to the building of resilience that I have alluded to. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us all to ensure that, despite the unprecedented challenges, the Union remains undeterred in its quest for inclusive and sustainable development as enshrined in both the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, and also the Africa Union's own Agenda 2063. This would also encompass the enhanced engagements and consultations with the RECs, the regional economic communities, as well as other Pan-African institutions on how we can intensify steps towards clear parameters of division of labor and alignment of national development plans with the regional and continental development frameworks, including the placement of existing regional and economic communities level partnerships and resource mobilization strategies with continental frameworks. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that's why the theme of this retreat of the African Union Committee of 15 Ministers of Finance, we also know as the F15, is particularly important. The F15, representing the wider voice of the Ministers of Finance across the Union, has a unique and a rather delicate task of sharpening the discussions by also providing recommendations on the fundamental concern of the financial sustainability of the African Union. While at it, we also recognize the special role played by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa and the African Development Bank, among other Pan-African institutions whose synergistic collaboration with the African Union remains an imperative in addressing these issues. Allow me to give a specific mention to two continental initiatives that speak directly to the subject at hand. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area, a flagship program of the African Union Agenda 2063, provides a particular promise of enhanced value chain system in the critical sectors of agriculture, of manufacturing, energy, services, and others. Not to mention the impetus for a rapid development of infrastructure and digital technologies, which are also necessary in expediting and actualizing our quest for regional integration. On the other hand, the 0.2 levy on eligible imports, adopted by the heads of state and government in Kigali in 2016, it also provides an avenue for member states to mobilize the requisite financial resources required to implement our various development programs. Your Excellencies, these are some examples that attest to the foresightedness of our leadership and the continent at large in our quest for self-sufficiency and self-reliance. We are only, therefore, required to advance the discussions as we delve into other innovative ways and means of actualizing the aspirations and goals of our development agenda. Lastly, Excellencies, without overemphasizing the interconnectedness of peace, security, and development, I wish to underscore the importance of the revitalized Peace Fund and commend efforts thus far by member states to see that it is adequately financed and operational. As the Commission, we remain fully committed to support its governing structures throughout the policy planning and implementation spectrum, including enhanced coordination and cooperation, so that the needed resources are deployed in an adequate and timely manner. Broadly, I wish to mention that at the Commission, we continue to implement budget and financial reforms aimed at attaining the highest fiduciary, transparency, and accountability standards in the utilization of the financial resources available to us by our member states. Accordingly, we remain committed to strengthen and deepen our engagements with the F-15 and the relevant PRC subcommittees responsible for administrative, budget, and financial matters. Of course, these also include audit matters. Once again, I thank you all for your continued support to the African Union and wish you fruitful discussions.
Thank you, Your Excellence, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, for key points on financing the Union, the role of F-15, and the other stakeholders towards the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. After these rich opening remarks, we are going to have a session for a family photo. Ushers in the protocol will guide towards where we should have our photo. Thank you. We have only 5 minutes, and then we continue our session. Please have your seats. Please. Excellencies, members of the panel, Excellencies, heads of delegation, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the sessions of the retreat, and I would like to hand over to His Excellency Ukul, the Minister of Finance of Kenya, to take us through the program. Over to you, Your Excellency, Minister of Finance of Kenya.
Excellencies, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to our session 1 discussion, and where we are going to deal with the Africa Union financial sustainability. We need to find out where we are now and what are the next steps, because for us to really take care of the health of the organization, we need to have a pragmatic approach in dealing with issues of funding. So we want to know where we are and what steps we need to take from here. And in this session, we have two prominent personalities who are going to give us their views on what needs to be done. And at this stage, may I now invite the AUC DCP to take us through the areas of financial health of the AU in the context of 9 golden rules for financial management and accountability. At this stage, the colleagues ministers will get an opportunity to look at where we are on the financial health of the AU in the context of the emerging policy issues, including the issues at hand that we deal with on a daily basis. The COVID-19 pandemic that is here, the emerging global scene, the higher inflation rates, the Russian-Ukraine conflict, and the attendant challenges that it has posed on the logisticals, the prices of grains, fertilizers, and generally, the upset of the global trends. And later on, we are going to have one of the eminent personalities for this continent, Dr. Donald Kebaruka, who's going to join us through a virtual session. But at this stage, let me invite DCP to kindly take the floor. Welcome.
Maybe it's better here, and someone will be running slides so that we can all see and go fast into the presentation. Chair, thank you so much for this. Indeed, we look forward to your session that is going to come after this and your discussions, but we felt it's good to also give you a picture like you have introduced the chair. I will be speaking to this context. As we know, since 2016, we are undergoing reforms, and one of them is the budget and finance reforms. The aim of it, as we all know, is really to reduce dependency on external resources and achieve sustainability and predictability of the revenues coming from member states and partners. We wish also to achieve a spread of the burden across the member states so that it's not a few that are carrying on their shoulders the needs of the union. And of course, last but not least, as you, Minister Nadia, mentioned, accountability, transparency, probity, fiduciary standards in the management of resources is a key for even to start speaking of financing. Before we go deep in the picture with the numbers, we wished also to share with you the results framework that we are working within. So before you, we have the 5 thematic priority areas, which form I would say the KPI areas of the African Union. We call them the KPIs of the chairperson of the Commission, who is the accounting officer of the Union, all organs and offices included. Number 1, it looks at institutional reform and corporate governance, whereby all the work of the reform falls. We look also at issues of communication, issues of engagement with the citizens, and I need this. Thank you. Issues of financial sustainability and predictability, that is really deliverables under that first thematic priority. There is a lot that we are going to engage on for this one, running from the processes, from the value for money, from the value proposition of what we are delivering as the Union, and how we do it. Then the second one, which is actually bulky because everyone almost across the landscape of the Union contributes to this. It speaks to really transforming lives and livelihoods on the continent. It looks at programs like CADEP in agriculture. It looks at issues in education and health, the work in Africa CDC and upcoming AMA, the work on gender equity and gender equality, everything that is really speaking to what is needed to transform lives on our continent. It's there. Then comes the governance, human rights institutions. This is indeed the rule of law, governance, rights, and institutions promoting the same on the continent. Then a big one, again, consolidating peace and security. This has been one of the most active and vibrant areas on the continent. And we're here to operationalize the Africa Peace and Security Architecture, make sure that our RECs and the regional mechanisms are working, early warning systems, and so on and so forth, so that we can achieve peace and stability on the continent. Then last but not least, integration, continental integration. All that is networking the continent, our free trade area, and other programs. The PIDA is one of our key programs that is looking at infrastructure development on the continent, and we a share of member states